401. Hey everyone. How chill is this, right? I was just working on these blocks you can like ride and kind of influence as you're riding them. It's right here in this second tab. Thanks fmod 1.10. It's a very kind of proof of concept going on here right now, but the idea being that we have this main loop playing as it's active. And these two tracks, one is 2D, one's 3D, they have independent AHDSRs. Second track is influence. This is like dependent upon direction. So we've got like, you know, kind of cardinal directions. Like this thing going on here, right? You can change direction. It's kind of working. It's kind of working. Somewhat. Just in time for Halloween, that's right. Well, welcome to Real Talk. This isn't Fmod Talk, this is Real Talk. I just realized it was still open. Like, what music do I play? Oh, how about this thing from Celeste? Sure. It's the cliffside track right now. Having a good time with it. Sorry. 1 second. I'm telling CD Projekt's Bjorn Jacobson how to show the Twitch chat. Dude, I'm streaming right now. Come on now, come on. Yeah, so Real Talk, we're here to tear apart some demo reels from two up-and-coming game audio folks. We have Jacob Harley and Ben Locke. White Noise Trash, there you go. There he is. What's up, Bjorn? How you doing, man? Yeah. Where's our real? Is this it? New tab? That's the wrong window. This one? Hey, that's not Real Talk. That's us. Ben Locke, and we have a Google Drive video from Jacob to look at. So yeah, we have freaking Rob. I'll go with Rob Krekel from Naughty Dog today. Naughty Dog, man. It's gonna be good. He's been doing game audio since like 2006. So it's got a few years on me, that's for sure. A few years. I think 2 or 3 years on me? Yeah, something like that. And he's been doing the AAA thing for a long time. He was at EA Chicago for a little while there, like a year and a half, and then went on to Sony Online Entertainment in San Diego and then Santa Monica. And then kind of worked, as I understand it, like with Naughty Dog for a while, and then kind of was officially there later on. Yeah. So it's, oh, Link, Matt. I apologize, Matt. Let me do this right now. Of course. It's always something I'm forgetting, Matt. I apologize. Jeez. Oh, it's a finely tuned engine, this Real Talk stream. Finely tuned. Apologies, all caps. There we go. And I'm pretty sure I have Jacob's new link. He kind of gave me an updated one later on, so we'll see how it goes. Yeah, so Rob was at those places and is now helping us out. So he worked on freaking Last of Us and Uncharted 3 and 4 and Lost Legacy and some EverQuest 2 expansions and Def Jam Icon, and a bunch of stuff in the past. So I'm pretty pumped to have him on board. He actually reached out to us as well a while back. He was like, hey, how do I guest host? So thanks a lot, man. I guess we might as well go ahead and get him going, yeah? Not much to talk about on our side as far as Power Up goes. We're just like cranking on a few things. We're in between shipping stuff right now. Mainly, we just got a few games in the IGF that we're hoping for the best for. So we're pushing to make sure that at least the first kind of hour was a full envisionment of the audio for the games that are not quite complete yet. So that at least when they get later in the game and things are silent, they're like, okay, well, we know what it should sound like eventually. So no worries. So fingers crossed for this year. We'll see how it goes. Let me press stop on this. Double tap. I'm gonna go ahead and give Rob a call, yeah? Let's do it.
Hello.
Hey, man.
How's it going?
I'm swell. How about you?
Doing real well. Trying not to take a nap, man. You're putting me to sleep. Sweet lullaby.
Those sultry tones, I know. Yeah, I was feeling kind of the same way. I was like, oh, play this, I guess. Sometimes it's like cranked up, just techno, and other days like this. So it's kind of a rainy day out here in Vancouver right now, so it felt right for the environment, you know. I know.
Definitely a rainy day tune.
Yes. Well, thanks a lot for coming on Real Talk, man.
Oh, no problem. I'm excited to dig in.
As I've said on many occasions, we're kind of like Matthew Martinson in the chat right now, of course, is holding it down as per usual. He's from Clay Entertainment here in Vancouver, and myself at Power Up Audio. Kevin Regami, if anyone new is tuning in right now. And we live outside the AAA sphere quite a lot. We'll like interact with folks in your community, of course, a lot. And the kind of it's like a big soup of game audio, everyone kind of working together. But as far as like hiring practices and kind of what folks kind of in your position might look for specifically, that's I can't comment personally, obviously, right? So it's nice to have people like you on the show. Thanks a lot.
Oh, no problem.
Okay, so if you're tuning into Real Talk right now for the first time ever, we're looking at these criteria in the bottom left right now. We're looking at presentation, material selection, content quality, and distinction. So for presentation, we simply say, how are you presenting yourself to people who might not know you very well or at all? And that's in terms of the website itself and just in terms of like taste and navigation. And is it very clear as far as what you want us to look at right away? And I guess it's important to mention as well that that we look at these reels as if they are like a job application. So as if they applied to a studio like Rob's or a studio like mine or Matt's or whatever, and just sort of say what you're coming across as kind of thing. So for presentation, also the reel itself, looking at all the titling and if your name's on it and just flow and yeah, just all these things. For material selection, we're saying what's in your portfolio, what's in your reel, what's that say about your ambitions and your skill sets and your past work history and such. And it might be a question of ordering, if it's like a good kind of gripping order, or if you have too much or too little or whatever. For content quality, we say, is this at the industry standard of awesome? And if not, we'll try to point you in that direction in some respect. And distinction is simply, are you standing out? Because you kind of gotta. There's a lot of, so I'll ask you, Rob, if you put an ad up for, let's say, like a junior sound position, like how many applications do you get?
Oh, man. Well, we just recently hired a more junior person, but we had put up a senior listing. So that's an important thing to state right off the off, is just because you're less experienced, have less ship titles, that doesn't mean don't apply. Mm-hmm. Because if your skills are up to par or better than people who have been in the industry for a long time, you're still a possible candidate for us. We get a ton of applicants, man. Our HR people get like hundreds, and then it gets filtered down, obviously, to some manageable amount. But even then, we still probably went through about 100 on our last job applicant.
Yeah, totally. So, in terms of like how much time do you think you dedicate to each one? Do you know?
It's usually pretty apparent on the off. Like,
yeah.
Some you don't. You guys know. Like some you don't even need to listen to the whole thing, because if it doesn't start strong, if you're not grabbed immediately, it's like, all right, on to the next one. We have exactly. So many to get through.
Yeah.
But we narrowed it down to like a handful. Then it's a matter of like rewatching, reading resumes, cover letters. Really, really matter, because it kind of like introduced us to you as a person as opposed to just your skill set.
Right.
So that can make actually a big difference. But yeah, it's we spend as much time as we can, but that's usually not a ton of time.
Yeah, totally. Okay, cool. I guess before we jump into it, I'm just curious. It's something we like to ask everyone that comes on the show, as far as guest hosts are concerned. Is like, what was your first gig, and how do you land that? Because I mean, being kind of the theme of the show, of course, is everyone trying to get started or getting traction or whatever. So it's kind of helpful to know that people in your position started somewhere themselves, right?
Yeah, and my story is particularly unique, so I wouldn't use it as an example of how to get in the industry, but it's kind of a cool story. So I went to school for game audio, kind of. I sort of manufactured that. I went to SCAD, and I got a degree in game design and sound design, and I was like, I want to do sound for games. So boom, there you go. My last year in college, I went to GDC with the expressed goal of just meeting folks, shaking hands. And I think GDC now has even gotten better. The game audio community is amazing. Like, everyone's so welcoming and so awesome that, like, junior folks that go now, I always encourage people to go because it's such an awesome place to just meet people. Anyway, but while I was there, I had before, like, days before I left, I had submitted my demo reel up on the Gang forum. And this is dating it, because that's not really a thing much these days.
Yeah, totally.
This is before the days of Twitter and LinkedIn and all that good stuff. This is kind of early days for internet. But so I put it up there just looking for feedback, not really like trying to get a job. So I met at GDC, shaking hands, meeting people. I met Phil Kovacs, who actually ended up being my boss at Naughty Dog. And this is in 2005. So fast forward like 12 years and he's my boss now.
Wow. Full circle.
Yeah, it's very trippy. But while I'm there, I get a call out of the blue to my cell phone from the audio director at EA Chicago. And he says, hey, we have a junior opening. I saw your demo reel on the Gang forums. Do you want to apply?
What?
And I was like, yeah. Yes,
Crazy.
Please.
Nice.
And so I applied, did a sound test. Sound tests are obviously super common. They brought me out for an in-person interview and fit really well with the team, and I was off to the races. I actually got the job before I actually had graduated. And that's why I say it's like, really, there's a lot of stars lining up to make that all happen. I feel very fortunate.
Yeah, but certainly it's not like it just sort of happened out of the blue. Like, you laid that groundwork, right?
Of course. I mean, I tried to make as killer a demo as I possibly could. And I think obviously that sort of helped to sell myself for sure. But and I think it's really important, because this industry is so small, especially audio. Kind of doesn't matter if you're working in indie or in AAA. Like, game audio is so tiny that if you just put yourself out there and you like make yourself a presence and people know you and you're cool, like, chances are you're going to work with those folks at some point. It's that small of an industry right now.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we've had people from like have like been on Real Talk and have gone on to land like studio positions or something like that. Like Barney Orem in the chat right now actually was, I think, the first example of that. He's now working at Cloud Imperium on Star Citizen, and well, it's always like there'll be recommendations from people or referrals or whatever, and it's because the person is just visible in the scene and they're being they're contributing in a positive way, or they're they're obviously passionate about what they do and they want to get better, and they are visibly, like, observably getting better, or whatever. Like, anything that kind of indicates you as a safe investment for a studio is going to be a good thing. And of course, this presence and consistency is a huge part of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, as far as going to GDC as well, of course, I can't possibly recommend enough that people should, and just kind of reflect your comment on that, because like you can't know where that opportunity might come from, but just lay as much groundwork as you can, like put your work in and just say hi and be a likable person, hopefully. and it's you like increase your odds big time when it comes to that kind of thing. So anyway,
being a likable person can't be understated, though, because your skills can develop. Some people are very unaware of their personal skills as opposed to their audio skills. Our jobs are really demanding. I mean, man crunch is brutal. It's brutal in AAA. I'm sure it's brutal in indie as well. And you want to work with people that you can laugh with, that you can hang out with while things are rough, and not like want to kill each other. And a lot of that comes down to just having a good attitude. So that is a really important deal. I mean, almost as important as your sound skill, probably actually more important.
Yeah. Do you know Ariel Gross? You know that name?
Yeah, I know Ariel.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I worked with her over at Sony.
Oh, word. So basically, there was like, they posted this article a long time ago regarding like Volition and their hiring practices and how they'd like bring someone in and there's kind of like an on-site interview and such, and then they get beers afterwards, and little they know, like that's the real interview, because if they're even in the building, they're already considering them, and then the only reason they're bringing them in is to say, okay, but who is this person, right? Like, do we want to spend time with this person?
Right.
And,
quick correction. I know Ariel Gross, not the Ariel I was thinking of at Sony. Just quick.
my mistake. Okay, fair enough. So, yeah, he is basically he was like saying that's so huge, and I'm just curious, is there something similar to your studio as well, as far as like that aspect of the interview process to kind of bring people in and say like, okay, well, who are you though? Are we going to get along?
Absolutely. I mean, that's kind of our in-person interview in general, that's what it's all about. You've already made it through the door based on your skill. Mm-hmm. Now the in-person interview is really all about like, who are you as a person?
Right.
And you know, and it's often a high pressure situation. So you sort of have to like be able to read people a little bit more, but it's usually a pretty good indicator right off the bat. It's usually not difficult to sense how comfortable somebody may end up being.
Yeah. Right. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for all the insight, man. I'm going to go ahead and I guess get started here. Want to do it?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm pumped. Who do you want to look at first? I saw J Harley Audio. Was that what it was? I may have butchered that alias, actually. But it's Jacob anyways. Jacob, yeah, I was right. J Harley Audio is in the chat right now. So perhaps we'll do him first. Are you here, Ben Locke, by the way? I'm curious. If you are, make yourself known, please. We'll do Jacob for the time being, though. Jacob did not submit like a full website or something. B-Lock Jammin is here as well. Sweet. Thanks, guys, for making it out and being in the chat. It's really helpful. So, Jacob, first off, so I'm just curious, just the very first thing here, I mean, as far as presentation is concerned, there is no online presence here. So does that like have an impact for you?
Yeah, having a website, having something, kind of a big deal. Demoreel's good, but I want to know a little bit more about you. Photos are good, like a little personal blog or something, or even your Twitter, something where I can like do a little internet sleuthing to figure out who you are. Yeah,
exactly. I'm curious here if I can find, like, I'll just search Jacob Harley Audio. I'll just search that right now on Google. And here you'll see some purple links here, actually, because I was curious myself. There you go. So, I mean, if you have no site submitted, like, people will like sleuth you. It'll happen, like, guaranteed, and they will anyways. Ben has a site, of course. There's his, but yeah, like there's like SoundCloud and there's LinkedIn and Twitter and like YouTube, I guess, but nothing further. So that's too bad. Yeah, I definitely prefer to have a site if I can, Jacob, but. For the time being, I guess that's all we have. So let's go ahead and I guess watch this thing. Yeah, just make sure my sound's up and stuff. And yeah, I'm all good to go. Okay, and 3, 2, 1, and go. Sweet. Oh, I have an applause. Do I have it? Oh, God. I'm so sorry for everyone that was... Oh, man. I apologize. That was the wrong instrument. There we go. It's one of these. Holy. Brutal. I'm so sorry about that. And there it is. Holy. Oh, no claps. Oh, my God. That was piercing. Okay. Well, survived that. What are your first impressions there, Rob?
So first impressions are pretty good. I mean, the coverage seems solid. I would say, for
Yeah.
immediately. So there's a couple things that immediately jump out. Like, he got voices in there,
Yeah.
which for that style of game, like, that's one thing that Battlefield and the guys at DICE do awesome, is like their ambient dialogue stuff. So hitting that, I think, was a really good thing. I'd actually almost want to hear more of it, just to make it more chaotic. But there's lots of things here that this is a tough mix, and so there's lots of things here that need to be dialed in on, I think.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this is certainly well outside my wheelhouse. I'm glad you're here. Yeah, I mean, my very first impression, I mean, apart from it being like not really like a real in terms of kind of here's my various things I've worked on and such. It's just one piece, mind you. It's a strong one piece, and
Yeah.
I'm just sad there's no like the presentation is very kind of just functional. Like, here's a thing, here's a video file, and that's kind of all we get. So. And also the voiceover thing. So Barney gave a shout out in the chat actually saying, love that voiceover. And it's so rare that we get voiceover on Real Talk that doesn't just blow entirely. Like, this it's usually so bad. And just it sounds like a student project, kind of go to the classroom and record voiceover kind of thing, right? And this is pretty good. It was nice. It was convincing for a lot of these things. So I'm down. I guess we can just march through these criteria then. So presentation, there basically isn't any, which is unfortunate. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Presentation is, I mean, it's functional, like you said, and that's kind of all there is to say about that. It's nice if you have a brand for yourself, if you can manage that.
Yeah.
That really can help set you apart a little bit. But the work, sometimes needs to speak for itself, so maybe that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a sliding scale thing, right? Where there's various elements that people might be looking for, and if one's like off the charts, then you're going to be in a good spot regardless. But I mean, the more check boxes are checked off, that's the better chance that you have, right? So
Yeah.
Oh, there's a site. What's up? It's a Wix site. It's in the chat there. You see that?
I see it.
Let's see this. So I searched your name and didn't find this, man. I searched Jacob is one thing. So is it Jake Harley and not Jacob Harley? Okay, cool. Well, here's a site. Great. I couldn't find this, and I tried. So keep that in mind, man. Like, that might be a problem, you know?
Yeah, you got to work on your SEO, man. You got to.
Yeah.
If somebody searches your name, your site should be number one.
That's rough. I was convinced he had no site, so cool. Here it is. So bio. Hi, I'm Jake. I'm a composer. I'll zoom in, sorry guys. I'm a composer and audio engineer from Indiana. I currently work on various projects, including studio recording, post-production, sound design, composition, and live sound. For information on my latest project, Krekel, the Depleted World, click here. Sure. Krekel the game. Cannot be reached. RIP. Oh, no. That's too bad. That link is dead. Yeah, man. That doesn't look good. That looks like it's an old... that situation right there, Jake, makes it look like this is an abandoned site or something, or that you're not very active. Because if it's like that, my immediate assumption is that this is an old game, or it's since been canceled or something, and that site no longer exists, and you haven't bothered to fix it, you know, which isn't great. Okay, services, the huge, great. Music, cool. SoundCloud is whatever. What are your thoughts on like a big list of SoundCloud links, man?
I mean, no context to any of it really doesn't help. Kind of like, I guess if you click through, maybe there's like a little blurb in SoundCloud, but when it's just a bunch of play boxes, not having context doesn't help very much. They might be great tracks, but if I don't know what you're trying to accomplish with the tracks, like it takes away from it for me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, as far as you mentioned, like kind of having a brand as well. On that same note, just trying to stand out in that way. I mean, your SoundCloud, Jake, looks like everyone else's SoundCloud too, which is kind of doesn't help you to stand out at all, right? Game audio. So we'll assume that Battlefield thing will be top. I guess. And then everything else, Greenlight trailer for Krekel, and then Stone. So you have like several things, man. So you totally could make like a legit, not like a legit, but it's like a more kind of demo reel, like a traditional one that has the various things you've worked on, right? Unless you don't want to show these things and they're old enough that you wouldn't want to show them anymore, but they're on your site. So, yeah.
So this might be blasphemy, but at least for Naughty Dog, I can only speak to our hiring practices.
Yeah, sure.
I am a big fan personally of tailored demo reels. So if you're attempting to work for a place like Naughty Dog, like don't send me your League of Legends magic sounds, because that doesn't tell me how well you are at cinematic sound or storytelling.
Right.
It tells me you can make some cool magic sounds, which is great, but that's not what we're looking for. So I find the people like this Battlefield demo is a great one to send to us because it's sort of more along the lines of something we might understand, versus sometimes things when it's cut together of like every little thing that's ever been done, it can be muddled as a message to like, well, which ones do you want to show us?
Yeah.
So I often find some of the best demo reels that we get are specifically tailored, and they say, here is what I want to show you. Boom.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Barney in the chat as well. Barney kind of had that going on for Cloud Imperium. He had a lot of sci-fi stuff in his reel, and it obviously paid off. So there you go.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so I guess the last thing, so have you clicked blog yet? If not, then don't click it yet. How recent do you think the latest blog post is, Rob? It's a little game we play.
Oh, man. Well, based on that broken link,
Yeah?
maybe a couple months old, let's say.
Okay, I'm gonna guess like February of last year, that's my guess. And blog, here we go.
Oof.
Oh, even earlier. No, October
2015.
That's brutal, man. This is now actively harming your efforts, Jake. Like this kind of thing here just says that you're not active, and it makes people wonder why, you know. And it's unfortunate. Like blogs are rough, man. Like you got to keep up with it, you know. I mean, like we're guilty of it too. Like Power Up Audio is totally guilty of it. We tried to do this thing we called like power plays that were these like behind the scenes dev kind of commentary things, but they're so freaking hard to make and they're time consuming and we have deadlines to deal with and we're a small team, so it's like it's never the priority, right? And then so Joey on our team had a wonderful idea of doing these like Instagram little clips here and there, and then we got busy again and we did it for a long time. We did like 50 of them every Monday, Wednesday, Friday for a long time, and then we just stopped doing them because we're too busy, right? So it's tough, man. So I don't have a good answer for you as far as like how to deal with that problem. But if you just be aware that having a very old thing as the most recent thing is like it doesn't look good. So anyways.
Yeah, even blogs in general, like maybe have your Twitter feed on there if you're not posting like articles all the time that you're trying to write, like just having your Twitter feed or your Instagram feed, that might be enough to show like, oh no, I'm posting frequently.
Mm-hmm.
Like.
Yeah, I mean, his Twitter is like relatively active, so that's good. That's definitely better, and there's a lot of like audio things on it too, so that's really cool. Seems like you're serious, Jake. Okay, cool. Then I guess we'll go on to his presentation wise. I mean, regarding the branding thing, this is a Wix site, and frequent viewers of the show know my opinion on Wix. I hate it, and I mainly what it is that when you have this stuff on the page, like to create your free website, this is obviously a free website, and basically this doesn't, it can't hurt to show you're serious, and one way of showing you're serious is to have a site that doesn't look like everyone else's and isn't free. Like you're investing in yourself as a brand, right? Like your business is you if you want to do freelance, and it's kind of also you if you want to get a job at a studio like Rob's kind of thing, right? I'm sure that a site that is much better put together or much more unique is going to be automatically more likely to land something than a site that is like on a template and looks like many other sites we've seen before, you know? Okay, anyways, so on to, I guess, the material stuff. So you had that kind of tailored main Battlefield video here. So as far as I'm on the blog right now, let's get back here. As far as the game audio thing, we have like greenlight trailer for this thing. I'm just gonna glance really fast here, Rob. So this Krekel trailer, it's like a 3D side scrolly thing, it looks like. Cool. And then we have, although this doesn't really have your work in it, does it? Or is it your music? Sorry, I'll read the freaking text. It's right there. I edited all the video and audio for this trailer. Oh, you made the video too, as well as composing and editing the music. I'll mix and sound design on Pro Tools. So you did sound and music. Okay, so do you want? I mean, this says like J Harley Music, is the page, but that sound design was like pretty damn good for someone who is putting music forward first. Yeah, what are your thoughts on the whole kind of music versus sound design thing, Rob?
Again, it's cool to have it on your site, but you want to be careful of which which foot you're trying to put forward. If you're trying to be a sound designer should be first underneath your name. Your site should probably have some kind of sound designer thing. If you want to be a composer, that's cool too, but you kind of need to pick which one you want to be if you want to work in the AAA space.
Yeah.
We have more divisions of labor. Like obviously where you guys work, it's more valuable to have like a little bit of both because your team size is a deal, right? Like we have the benefit of having a music department that we work with who works with various composers and music editors and all sorts of stuff. And us as the sound department, we're almost always only looking for sound people, sound designers.
Right.
And so, and that's sort of the thing. Like you kind of need to decide which avenue you want to go for, and kind of pick one. And if he has indeed picked composer and that's his thing, then cool. Then he's doing it right, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose as well. Like you were saying, if you get a tailored reel, then that would kind of indicate what they want to do, I suppose. And it's not like getting hired as a sound design, like in a sound design position. I mean, like give up music forever. Like, of course not, right?
No, of course not.
But yeah, and as well, I'm sure that like a background in music probably measures into your like preference for somebody. Is that
that's absolutely always a positive thing. It's never a negative.
Yeah, totally. Okay, cool. So I guess I'll look at inventory really fast. I'm just curious of these videos. Creech inventory SFX. Okay. UI. It's a bold video. It's very slow moving. That's okay. And then the Stone Guardian Awakening. Okay. Oh man, too long. Next.
I gotta say, I'm never really a huge fan of like individual, like here's just this one animation of a guy, or here's just some inventory sounds. It just it's showing such a small amount of your skill set. Like that material is better cut into a reel, I think.
Yeah, totally. Like it's kind of a pain. They give us like this 4-second opener and the 4-second opener for all these things. Like it's just you want to like trim the fat and just show the absolute best stuff you have if you're doing a reel. It's really your call if you want to or not, Jake, obviously. But yeah, it's a bit cumbersome. And furthermore, you can't guarantee what someone will look at if they just go to this page, right? They may scroll and be like, oh, what's this one? Cool. Exploitants. Here we go. Done. And if it starts with like 10 seconds of your weakest work, then that's not the best use of their 10 seconds of time, right? Okay. So anyways, I guess on to so as far as material goes, if you saw this site just alone, like without that reel, or without the demo piece there, Rob, what would you say Jake wants to be doing, just in general, as far as a position in the industry?
Dude, it's very confusing, especially given the blurbs, because there's sound effects, there's music, and it's not really clear. It's not like, here's my sound design reel, here's my music reel. There is music SoundCloud, but even in the sound design game audio portion, there's also music. So it's like if you only want to do sound design, make your game audio deal like without music and just have it be sound design only type of stuff. That can definitely help differentiate your two kind of avenues of attack.
Yeah, I mean, if you had that tailored piece and that was your so that piece alone, like that Battlefield piece, would that be like an effective application to your team?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, just to kind of go back to what I did, the demo reel that I had way back when was actually the infamous Killzone 2 trailer from E3 like 2005.
Okay, sure.
The one that was like, is it pre-rendered? Is it gameplay? Whatever. But
Sure, yeah.
it's a single scene. It's a big action scene. There's voice, there's music, and there's all sorts of stuff going on. But that was enough to get noticed. So I think if you can demonstrate enough strong skill in one clip, I think that's plenty. Especially if that's the kind of style that you're looking to go for.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Would that work for you guys? I don't know. Would that be enough?
Probably not, because we work on such a variety of stuff, man. Like, I worked on 3 games on Monday, like 3 different games on Monday, right? Like it's and they're vastly different. Like they're super different games. So it's pretty important that you demonstrate you can like adapt to different kind of different directions as far as like creatively and as well. So I'll come around to the technical thing briefly. Do you like how important is a demonstration of like implementation ability, or at least interest, to your team?
It's super important because sound designers are expected to implement their own stuff here.
Okay.
It's not, there's no, I mean, we do have some implementation help, which is responsible for Foley tagging, which is sort of the more remedial stuff. But in terms of everything else, I mean, we're designing back-end systems as much as we're designing the actual assets. So that's definitely a big, important thing. But a lot of that can be taught.
Right.
Sometimes a good ear is very difficult to teach. And so that's why I say having a very strong piece where your sound design skills can shine, that might be enough to at least get you in the door for an interview.
Mm-hmm. And then at that point saying, yes, I absolutely want to learn that stuff. And then you think, okay, cool. This is a safer bet then.
Right.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so then the next thing, I suppose, content quality. I guess we'll focus in on this piece that you submitted, Jake, since it's kind of, that seems like what you want us to focus on. So let's do that. I know you mentioned there's a lot going on. It's a hard piece to mix. So do you have any first thoughts on just things you might change or things you might improve?
So overall, like I said, the coverage is good. There's a lot of stuff there, but you have to kind of focus in on moments a little more. And that's a storytelling thing, right? Like, you want to sell certain things as they're happening, meaning like as the tank goes by, maybe that's the most important thing is in the scene, and we need to hear more detail of that tank. As it fires, it needs to sound more metallic. Especially when there's the slowdown, when the player is injured. Right now, it just maybe has like a low pass on it kind of thing, but if you look at the video, the gun is actually shooting slower, you're moving slowly, like emphasize the mechanics of the gun, the shell ejections, like tell me the story, like amp up the breathing of the character because they're about to die, like I really want to know what's going on, more focused. Mm-hmm. And then there's a lot of stuff when you're getting shot at, I'm not getting a sense of danger. I'm not hearing those whiz-bys, those close shot-bys that really give you that like tense feeling, like especially when you're getting shot at towards the end here, like it's just you're hearing sort of the impacts and things, but really I want to hear those whiz-bys coming by your head and making you feel like claustrophobic. Mm-hmm. Overall, it like I said, it's a rough mix because there's explosions, there's gunshots, there's whiz-bys, there's tanks, there's everything. So the thing that you'll probably spend the most time on is mixing this thing because it's just there's so many elements to deal with.
Yeah. It's a definitely an ambitious piece to design, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And it's a full minute too. We'll see redesigns of like 10 seconds of this sometimes. It's like, yeah, all right, sure. You grab that bit and kind of say, hey, this is pretty sweet, right? Sure. And I'll say as well, this is absolutely above average for like redesigns we'll see on Real Talk. Like, absolutely. Sure. It's but the telling a story thing is pretty huge, and there was definitely some moments here and there. And again, this is not my forte at all. The whole first-person shooter thing. I've basically like one indie game experience in this field. It's not very not quite at the level you're working at as far as like creatively and technically. And sure. But yeah, there's certainly moments like I saw the slowdown thing too. That like my first watch through, that seemed kind of weird to me. It was still the same like psh, psh on the attack. Or on the on the gunshots, not it's
like pull that gunshot apart. Let me hear all the things that are making that happen.
Yeah.
Cool. Like let's tell that story. The other thing that could really use a little bit of help is the Foley seems kind of subdued, and there's moments where it could really poke through when there's not sort of explosions and gunshots. You hear those muddy steps and things like really gluing you into the space. Mm-hmm. Hearing the jingle jangle, the gear, like all that stuff, like. Being able to differentiate those grenade throws, because right now they're sort of buried. You sort of maybe hear a little thing, but that's what I'm saying. This mix is rough, because there's all these things that you need as player feedback. That's the other thing. You're making a game, right? It's not a movie. So there's moments in here, like when you shoot the flamethrower guy's backpack and it blows him up. That's a gameplay tell. You need like a Rico or a metal tank or something in there to tell the player, oh yes, you successfully hit the backpack. Some kind of feedback loop to like let players know that they're doing it right. Because you see you're kind of shooting him in the chest and then you circle around the back and he blows up. It's cool you got the explosion, but there's more feedback that you can communicate to the player.
Right. Sweet. Yeah, it's a lot of good feedback there. Thanks a lot. So
Yep.
as far as I guess the next thing, distinction. Do you think that Jake Harley is currently standing out in a crowd?
If we were looking at a junior level person, I think it's pretty on top of the pile. Because overall, like I said, the coverage is really good, and a lot of the time that we get junior stuff, the coverage is the thing that suffers the most, the detail.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it would certainly be in the conversation. So I definitely think it's not super distinct, but definitely towards the top.
Yeah. I was going to say something there. What the heck was I going to say? Right. So the distinction thing, I want to clarify for the chat as well. If you're not standing out, it might not mean, or rather, if you're not like immediately hireable, that's fine. That's totally fine. And if you, the one thing I love getting as far as people who are interested in working with us, either like contracting or like interning or whatever, the one thing I love getting is like follow-ups like 3 months later or 6 months later or even like a month later saying, hey, here's me again. Here's what I'm working on. Hope all is well. See you later. Like that's it. Where it's kind of just offered without any pressure. Like here, I'm still around. I'm still doing this stuff. I still love it. And it's not like, hey, like we know you want to work for us. We already know that. It's fine. But if you just follow up and you've improved and it's like a visible improvement, then that speaks such volumes that you're not doing it because you're in school. You're not doing it because you have to. Like you're just doing it as you want to do this thing and you want to, advance yourself in your career. Very self-driven. That's a great thing to see. So I know with like version 2s on Real Talk, we've had it occasionally, and we had one version 3, I think, that they're like obvious improvements, and it's really cool to see that, So that goes along.
Yeah, dude, I couldn't agree with that more. And actually, like kind of to that point, I would say that just getting in touch with folks, like doing Real Talk is obviously great because you get professionals in the industry giving you feedback, but you don't have to just send it to a Twitch show. Like I look at demo reels all the time. My Twitter is out there. You guys can find me. My email is pretty easy to get to too. And I love giving feedback. I think it's important. And I also like getting those follow-ups. I think is really important because that shows that you actually give a shit. And that's a big deal. Because too many people, they kind of like make their demo reel and then that's the best I can do. It's like, no, man, I'm not doing the best I can do ever. I'm always like trying to learn and be better. Like, and if you're not trying to learn and be better, you're doing it wrong. You gotta, there's always something more to learn. And getting as much feedback as you can from various different sources is a great way to help that.
Barney in the chat saying, we'd love to hear Rob's opinion on people redesigning the company's work they're applying to.
I have no problem with that. If you do an awesome job, if you make my work look subpar, then that's awesome. I will want to hire you. I definitely wouldn't be insulted by that at all. Like, hey man, there's some really cool sequences in Uncharted, and it's definitely a fun piece to work on. So if you do a good job, then kudos to you. Yeah.
I think that, I mean, just as an outsider myself, outside AAA, like I feel like that would be a pretty like if you do a great job on it and you put like an obvious amount of like hard work into it, I think that'd be kind of a very clear indication of I'm serious about working for you kind of thing. That's
absolutely.
I mean, how much more tailored can you get, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I guess that's probably enough for Jake. I mean, yeah. If you have any questions in the chat, Jake, of course, throw them up, man. It's now 4:45, so we can move on to Ben Locke, I suppose. Thanks a lot, Jake. Cheers, man. Okay, let's close down these pages here. And Ben Locke with Wix again. You may have heard how I feel about Wix, Ben. It's fun. I actually like Wix the least of like the Squarespace and the WordPress and stuff. It's just so obnoxious. But oh well, it's fine. Okay, Ben Locke in the chat right now. B Locke Jammin'. Hi, my name is Ben Locke, and I'm a sound designer for video games and VR. I have recently finished university studying audio and music production, and am looking to build a career in the games industry. Thank you for taking the time to look at my website. I am going to use this as a place to keep my show reel and various projects I work on. I know that, man. That's fine. You don't need to tell me that. What can I do? I can use Wise, Unreal, Unity, various DAWs, and have skills in sound design, fully recording, and live audio. What do I want to do? I plan to work in-house at a AAA studio. Please see my CV here. Great. And a contact form. And links to stuff. Cool. I think your bio is probably more than we need to have, man. And also, by the way, I didn't call it out on Jake's page, but while Rob was talking, I highlighted one word was a typo. So characteristics was spelt wrong. Those kind of things stand out to me a lot. I don't know if Rob cares about that kind of thing. Those details.
Oh, dude, that drives me bananas, especially in cover letters and in resumes. If you have a typo, you go in the circular file, man. It's like you proofread your stuff. If you can't care enough to like proofread your work, like, come on.
Yeah, it's just, or like send it to somebody, say, hey, what do you think? Can you look at this for me? Give me a second opinion. I mean,
Grammarly, man. There's apps for this shit now.
It's important to me for reasons beyond my own, like, OCD and such, because typos matter in like a professional capacity, a big way. Not just looking professional as a potential representative of our company if you're working for us, but also in things like file naming. Like if it's named wrong, then the game crashes or the game fails to load the audio or whatever, and that's a big problem. I know, like Mark, I think it was Mark Kilborn was on the show. He was one of our first guest hosts, and he was saying, like, if we do some scripting and such on our team at Raven, and if you mess something up, like, you broke the game for like 500 people. It's a big problem,
Very similar here.
There you go. So yeah, things like, just not trimming down your stuff, and things like this has a period, this doesn't have a period. Those small consistencies, they do stand out to certain people. So be aware of that, Ben. I think you can totally pare this down like to half the length. Like Matt says, what you want to do? Well, I've lost interest. I think that it can come down a lot. So welcome, cool. So main page is where we are, I guess, and then portfolio is okay. So show reel up top. It's a minute 8. Cool. Previous projects, Utopia 6. Some stuff about these things. Great. And then dialogue work and contact again. Okay, great. And then, we were on the about page already. Is that where we started?
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. Okay, here we go. So this is the main page. What the? Okay, so the main page fails. We're gonna go back. So Ben Locke is what you want. Got it. Okay, so one thing we often bring up is, as Rob already mentioned, as far as hiring practices there, they get like 100 applications or something like that, or at least 100 to look through. And be aware that it's really important to consider that people might spend or might have a very limited amount of time to have on your page, like to spend on your page, and assume they have 10 seconds. Like it's a small number, but just assume that, and then say, how are they going to use these 10 seconds? With your page right now, we have 10 seconds. We roll in, we see welcome, and you looking suave in front of a Razer laptop and some gear, cool. And then a bio, and now we're done. Like, that's 10 seconds. So it might be worth considering that while it may seem blunt, this is not important. Like, this bio is not important in the slightest until you've established that you have the skills. That's at least how we approach things.
If we like your work, then we'll care what you look like and all that other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So like Rob was saying earlier, you demonstrate skills, and then you're in the door, and they see if you're a good fit personally. So, I would recommend having this show reel, which is, nice and big and centered, and it's very clear. This is what you want us to see on this page. Very good. I would recommend having this on your main page. Like, have this be the main page, the show reel as a main page. And then portfolio could be additional things. Like, perhaps, I haven't seen your show reel yet, but if you have several things in there, then you may want to have in your portfolio kind of what you have here. You have the various pieces with some information about, a little further in depth as far as what you did and such. If people are, if they take the interest in a given game, they can look deeper and find that information, right? Okay, so I guess, do you want to watch a reel here, Rob?
Let's do it.
Okay, go full screen and full volume. Great. 3, 2, 1, and go.
Hey, keep an eye out. Batman can be real.
Okay, so just to stop really quick, I would be absolutely skipping ahead by this point. We'll watch the whole thing for the sake of real talk, but I will come back and let you know kind of why I have that inclination. Keep going. Okay, Ben Locke. All right, thanks a lot, man. Okay, so very first impressions, Rob.
It's a very typical out of school reel, I would say.
100%.
Meaning it's a bunch of student projects, which might be all you got, but maybe you need to do some stuff on the side to fill it out.
Okay, and Matt Esk in the chat says it's rough. Yes, I am inclined to agree. The first thing, I pressed play, and sorry, I turned it way down. I'll turn it back up. Full volume, and press play. Kind of caught me off guard, not a big deal though. And then the next thing,
Keep an eye out.
keep it. So the very first thing we hear is what sounds like kind of student project-ish level voiceover, and it's the very first thing we hear, apart from your little splash sound. The first thing we hear in your redesign is like, keep an eye out, right? Which is, like I was saying in that previous reel, it's very uncommon to hear good VO in a demo reel from someone kind of at your position in your career. And it's not your fault. Like, it's hard to find talent who want to help out with something like that, right? And I assume you probably don't have funding for something like that either. So it's tough to throw like $500 at somebody to do voice for your demo. But just be aware, it's the first thing we hear. The very first impression is this voiceover.
Hey, keep an eye out. Batman can be real.
And then we drop down. So like Rob was mentioning, the most common thing that redesigns tend to suffer from is like absence of coverage. And there's a whole lot of stuff here that is not covered. And that's we'll talk about that in a bit. But just to kind of talk about why skipping ahead. So in the first 10 seconds, as we mentioned, the whole 10-second rule, right? In the first 10 seconds, I felt like I had a pretty good idea of what the next minute would look like. So that's where we're at. But let's go on the criteria list for a second here. So we have presentation. So one good thing that you have is that your name's up front. You don't have any contact info though, which is unfortunate. It's probably worthwhile to make it as easy as possible to get in touch with you, because if someone likes your stuff, then don't make them hunt down where to do it. I saw someone mention as well on your website that there's no indication of what that contact form is. It's like assumable it's like a typical contact form on a site like that, but it's like you could have like a contact page or something like that instead. Titling, we've got like Batman Arkham Knight sound redesign. Cool. And then next thing, and it stays up the whole time. Yeah, Rob, go for it.
Just to bump in. One thing that I find useful is that if you do have a logo, a watermark, or whatever, and your contact info, that can be on the whole video, and then you can just have titles changing to just, Batman Arkham Knight, student project, this, that, and the other thing. Like, that could be like a little icon down on the right with your contact info, with your Twitter handle, whatever you want to put there. Like, you can have that be there the whole time, so I don't forget who I'm looking at.
Yeah, totally.
And then I can even like pull up your Twitter over here while I'm looking at the rest of your demo reel. Like
Yeah.
multitasking is a thing, so it's nice to actually have that stuff.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't had that before. That's sweet. Okay, so the next part here we have this staying up the whole time. Great. And then 2 water, student project sound design. Okay, sweet. Did you, like, what was this built in? And did you use any middleware? I'd like to know that. The next thing is Discover VR, student project again. Same note regarding what you did or what you used for it. And then survival shooter demo. I've seen this, like, have you seen this before, Rob? This shooter demo before?
No, I have not.
Oh man, I've seen this like 20 times.
Okay.
It's a very common thing. Yeah, it's I wasn't sure how common it was at kind of your level, but yeah, it's like some I think it's in a couple like school courses maybe they use this demo, and I think it's just like available on the Unity site so you can use it for testing or using like learning Fmod or Wise or whatever.
Sure.
So yeah, just be aware with this thing, like presentation wise. Keep in mind that this kind of suffers from the same thing that template style sites suffer from, and that's it's hard to stand out when you're using the same materials as so many others, because this immediately blurs in with every other time I've seen this thing. it's just kind of the sad reality.
The other thing about using like templated games for implementation is like, depending on how well that's been set up or what your skills are, like you may not be able to add in all the sounds that you want to or should be there. And if that's the case, like feel free to add stuff over the top in Pro Tools, because like it just needs to sound good.
Interesting.
Like
Yeah.
it's great to have the implementation skills, but if it ultimately doesn't end up sounding good on your reel, it's kind of not worth putting on there. Like if it sounds unfinished or not fleshed out fully because maybe the project didn't support what you wanted to do, like don't let that handcuff you. Like finish out what you want it to sound like. You still did some implementation and you can explain that, but ultimately if the clip is in your demo reel, it needs to sound good.
All right, cool. Yeah, there's a lot of differing opinions on that we have from various hosts. The whole thing, like for me personally, seeing the middleware thing, like if it was like a middleware demo and it's there for the express purpose of saying like, hey, I am learning Fmod or whatever, then if it sounds like crap, or if it's like the cube, like the cube demo for Wise, it's so commonly used, and it sounds like trash like every time. And I think it's due to the issues that you brought to light there, is that it's just not a great, it's not really set up to show your best work. So I see that myself, and I'm like, okay, well, if it's at least okay, if it's like sounds pretty good, then I mean, granted, I also know what the limitations of that like template project look like. So if it sounds pretty good, I'm like, it's like not bad considering it's Cube, But yeah, it's definitely not. It's not as good as having something like Barney Oram had, where he's like, hey, I built this level in Unreal, and then hooked up this middleware, and then made it sound great. It's like, yeah, it's pretty sick actually. That sounds out in a big way, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it's an issue if it doesn't sound good.
I mean, one of the coolest little demos that I ever saw was at GDC a few years ago. A guy came up to me and he had on a tablet, he had built in Unity just a simple 2D thing, but it was a voice synth. And he had recorded his voice in various different timbres, and then he did real-time processing, and he could change it, like he could click the female button and it would change the timbre of the recorded voice. He could like hit the gobbledygook button and it would like granularize all the vowels and move everything around. Like that kind of implementation where I'm actually like touching it, that is the coolest for my money. Like watching something that's implemented on a video is like, if there's some way you can actually have it in my hands and I can actually play with it, that is way more powerful. I know it's different than a demo reel, but like in terms of power of showing your implementation skills, that's the best way to do it for my money.
Yeah, sweet. Okay, so then I guess we'll just skip through again. Here's a Discover VR, Starlight Shooter thing, and that's it. So, okay, I guess, so judging from this onto material selection here, what would you guess Ben wants to be doing?
I think it's pretty clear that he's wanting to do sound design. That's from the video here. Obviously, there's no real music aside from the last bit, and if I go by what I read on his website, then that is what he's going for.
Mm-hmm. And as far as like a position in the industry, like AAA or like a freelance thing, or what do you think?
Well, it's definitely not. I mean, we're not in the AAA space at this moment. This, like I said, it sounds very student-like, and the only way that this takes a lot of self-awareness when you're making a demo reel. If you're doing an Arkham Knight sound redesign, it's got to sound as good, if not better, than the real game. Period. End of story. If it's paling in comparison to that, then you're going to find it very difficult, because it's very easy to make that comparison. Lots of us have played that game. We know how it sounds. It's different than a student project or a smaller game that maybe not everyone's played. But when you pick like a big budget game like that, it has to sound like a big budget game.
Yeah, totally. And with the occasional exception of it sounding like just creatively different, like it significantly different, that it's not even comparable anymore. And then it's like, oh, this is kind of cool, actually.
Right.
Barney in the chat's asking, would your studio ever take the time to like look at a game build type application, like an EXE or like a build level or something like
that? That's just like an IT thing. Like, we can't accept applications necessarily, but if you have an app on the App Store, or if you have some other way of like getting it to us, like it's a Flash, a Unity Flash game or whatever, like, then yes. But if it's like something that has to be installed on a computer, like, absolutely not, never, and ever.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I guess into the material stuff. So we got this redesign. Sweet. We've got this. And sorry, I'll mention myself. So this redesign says to me you want to eventually work in AAA, although as Rob says, you're not quite there yet. This kind of indicates intent, at least. So hopefully that's the case. And then the next thing is this VR thing. I know VR is like, it's becoming more prevalent. It's not common we get like a VR kind of focused demo reel. So cool, I guess. And then, although it does blur the AAA thing, because there isn't a whole lot of like AAA VR happening right now. There are like studios that are specializing in like kind of the top echelon of VR in the world right now, of course. But I'm curious if that's what you want to be doing, Ben. You're here, so let us know, certainly. And then the demo thing just tells me you want to do implementation also. That's all it tells me. And it can't tell me anything else. So I guess on to content quality. This is probably where we'll spend our most time for this segment. Okay, so do you want to start off on this coverage thing for the Arkham Knight?
Yeah. I mean, this is... So a little bit in material selection, like kind of we talked about focus demo reel. Like if your goal is AAA, then you kind of don't need, like, maybe you just do one scene, like the last one we just looked at. Maybe it's just Arkham Knight, and you focus all your energy on making that sound killer. And if your goal is to work in AAA, then that's kind of maybe where you should focus your time and energy. Content wise, yeah, man. We kind of need to hear a whole lot more. Foley is a big deal in these games. Movement of the characters is huge. A lot of time and energy gets spent making characters feel grounded in the world, and didn't really hear much of it. I think there's like a little bit of ambience. There's a little bit of dialogue that's not great, and then there's sort of very minimal sounding punches with sort of an interesting slowdown sort of sound, which might be a cool element, but it's just naked. And really, like, there's a crowd there, there's a police car, there's wind, there's all sorts of stuff going on. And really, those punches and kicks and all the Foley that accompanies them needs to, if you hit nothing else, that needs to kind of hit the bar, or at least come close.
Yeah, and it's I mean, it's very clear that you work very hard on this, Ben. So it's the thing about redesigns is it's really tricky. And like Rob was saying, it takes a lot of kind of self-adjudication and self-awareness. It's tricky because you started with nothing, right? You strip the audio away and it's silent. And like compared to silence, like there's a lot of sound here, of course. it's a big change, right? But I mean, like what percent complete would you say this is, Rob, as far as like coverage goes?
Oh man, maybe like 25% if I'm generous.
Like tops, right? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a good way to go, Ben, is like design literally everything you see, and then at that point, it's probably a good time to start dialing back and say, well, what's important? Like with the previous clip, we're saying like, what's the most important thing from moment to moment, and make that shine in the mix. So like the tank going by, right? Like that, if you're designing everything, you'd have like all the crowds all the time, like all the gunfire all the time, and all the explosions all the time. But that tank is like the most important thing, so you bring that in at that point, right? So if you go too far, it's a really great practice, because then you kind of know it's too far. You know where too far is now. Whereas if you just sort of keep doing more and like trying to reach the finish line from this position right now, then you haven't yet like identified that finish line, apart from just looking at the original, like the shipped product, right? So if you go too far, then you can pull it back and you kind of like narrow in on that finish line. Otherwise, you're like inching forever, and it's even like more work at that point, right? So anyways, let's I'll jump through really fast here and just mention some things I saw. So the very first thing we have, hey, keep an eye out. We mentioned that, and then this flip off is immediately silent. And the thing is, so the first few seconds, the VO aside, really kind of set the stage, and it's not gripping. And so so Matt says the first 5 seconds, I was already counting up a ton of stuff, a crazy amount of stuff that needs to be covered. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll just pause, like play and pause through this thing really fast, and we'll just point things out for you. So that flip needs to be covered.
Also, if you notice in that flip, he's shooting his grapple hook gun.
Yeah.
And he's not just flipping down, and there's the cable tension. I mean, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of detail.
Yeah, the punches are very kind of singular, and they're like they sort of end all of a sudden, and you'd probably want to be a little larger than life at least. I mean, maybe not like exactly what that sounds like, but certainly, again, just reference the original and say how they do punches there, because they probably, like Rob says, put a ton of effort and time into making sure it was just right. This roll here. I was about to say there's no VO for the enemies, but I guess there's some there. It could be a lot better though. All right, so into the 2 water project here. So the student project, fine. The thing about student projects, we didn't really mention this. The thing about student projects is that you did this because you had to, because you were in school. And that's fine that you've indicated you've invested some time and money likely into refining your craft and learning more and such. Of course, it's a very good step to take. However, I haven't seen this project, mind you, but I get a lot of like the same kind of projects at school, like the Unity thing I mentioned earlier, right? And this doesn't do much to indicate you're serious. Because I mean, for example, do you go to school for audio, Rob?
Yeah.
Okay.
Design, yeah.
Yeah, cool. So in your class, like what percentage of people are from that class are working actively in sound right now? If you had to guess.
It's pretty small class, but even then, maybe only. So I think our graduating class was maybe 30 people, and then working professionally, maybe 10 or less.
Yeah, certainly. So basically, those 30 people all probably like had a portfolio of sorts leaving school, and the thing is just that stat alone, and I can say the same thing for my class. I had like 30 people, and I think like 5 are working in sound right now in various capacities. And so, I mean, they all had portfolios, and they all should say, hey, here's the thing I made. Yeah, sure you did. But, what are you doing when no one's watching? Like, what are you doing when you're just having fun, like making this cool thing or working on this cool redesign or whatever? It goes so much farther than just showing what you did in school, But for quality on this, I mean, it's a student project, so I mean, I don't want to harp on it too hard, but it was pretty abrasive compared to the previous piece. Like all the traffic noise and stuff. And I understand the traffic is probably, like by nature, it's very cacophonous and things should sound dangerous and large and stuff. That's fine. But there's kind of a balance to be met there probably. Do you have any notes on the sound in this piece here, the 2 water?
It's another detail thing, right? Like attention to detail is something that we pride ourselves at Naughty Dog and hitting. And my personal thing is like I try to hit everything that there is possible and then mix down, like you said before.
Right.
So I want to hear the pitter patter of the feet, not just the cars. You know, like I want to hear, yeah, you got some duck box, but maybe this kind of game doesn't require like realistic sounding cars. Maybe that's too much. Maybe it needs to actually have some kind of design or character to these things
Yeah.
that speaks a little bit better, but also leaves room for these other sounds, the flaps, the pops, the ticks, and all the different things that are going on. Like those garbage are like full frequency. They're just swallowing anything else that's going to happen.
That's pretty crazy.
So
I wanna
it's
play-
maybe being more creative, like coming up with something that's a little more designed to fit.
Yeah, and the cars, like, there's like low poly trees and stuff in the background, and the city walls, of course, are kind of just very like flat with the basic kind of geometry and stuff. So maybe the sound can reflect that. I mean, it's not a given; it has to. I mean, right now, like Celeste, we're doing like hyper realistic footsteps and everything. It's like a pixel art game, you know. So
Yeah.
it's there's just like not really direction here. That's all it comes down to. So I'm gonna play this one more time at full volume, just so you can get an idea for for how this compares. Like to compare the previous piece, Ben, to the next piece here. I'll let the previous piece play for like a few seconds. It's just like so loud. By comparison, it's so loud. It's pretty bold to like Rob says, kind of having that just the full frequency like going by. There's just no room for anything else. You know, it's pretty rough.
I mean, one thing that might help that, and this is something I really like that I've seen in some demo reels, is if you do have a bunch of scenes like completely unrelated linked together, is like maybe you lead into this shot while you're still in Batman with a car by to bridge the transition,
Yeah,
and
like
you
a
like
J-cut,
treat
yeah.
this like one movie as opposed to just a bunch of things cut together. Like you actually try to make a soundtrack for the whole thing that feels cohesive. You know, you're still like using the right sounds, like where you can, obviously. It's not always going to work given the disparate nature of some of these clips, but it can be cool if it shows you thinking not just about the content of each clip, but how they work together in your reel.
Yeah, it demonstrates a lot of flow, just awareness of flow as well. And flow is, I mean, of course, a huge thing in sound, like driving a scene or helping to inform player behavior or whatever. It's all super important. So demonstrating that you have an apt kind of eye for flow in your, this is like a trailer for you, is what it is. It's your personal trailer. And if it feels good, and if like you bring us along on a journey and tell a story with your whole thing, then that can only speak well of you, you know? Let's keep going here. Play again. Our next piece is Discover VR. Right. So we have this kind of ambience with some hand stuff. And a torch a bit. And a throw. So, I mean, it just isn't showing much. You know, there's not much there at all. It's not much to even comment on. I mean, the torch, it doesn't really sound like it would sound in that environment. And like its positioning and its size and stuff, and the handholds are kind of very singular, like it's like a tap, like a. So, yeah, there's just not much to comment on, you know. So its presence in your sound reel is kind of like, I'm not sure what you're trying to tell us with that, I guess. Yeah, I mean, does it help you at all, Rob? That piece?
No, it really doesn't. And again, like it's a student thing. Like it's maybe the first thing in VR you've done. Like. That's cool, and it's good that you're proud of it, but it probably doesn't need to be on your reel. And if you do want to put it on your reel, like the thing about student projects is once you've graduated, once you've gone past the class, you can go back and you can revamp that stuff. Like
Yeah.
you can make it killer. Like there's no reason just to freeze it in time and never touch it again if it's something that you really care about. Again, it's kind of like giving a shit. Like make it sound as good as you possibly can. Don't just be satisfied with whatever it was when you turned it in to your class. Like that's usually my own personal experience. You're never satisfied with stuff that you turn in. So
Yeah.
if you can take some time and readdress some stuff, you might make it something worthy. Maybe.
Yeah, a teacher of mine in audio school told me that a project is never finished; it's only abandoned, and that's absolutely the truth. I did some things I like show him like this track I mixed with a buddy of mine I was working with at the time, like some restaurant. And I was like, and he gave me some good pointers and some good feedback. And I said, just try to fix this. And he's like, well, you can if you want, or you can just learn from that and call it done, and your next piece is better. Just keep getting better like that way. So yeah, you can totally come back and fix this stuff if you want a new reel. Or just what is even better than a student project is carry on and find something online or make something personally or whatever, and like learn from those shortcomings you had in the past and just grow and just indicate that growth in some way, you know. And the last piece is pretty rough, but we'll press play here. We'll listen one more time at like 45 seconds ish. Okay, so this this piece, it basically indicates that you have an interest in implementation, and that's about where it ends as far as what it's doing for you. Do you have any just thoughts on that right away, Rob?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. That's about all it shows, is that you've implemented essentially 4 sounds in a game, in a game context, which is cool. But again, like, it's missing all this detail, all this coverage, and that's rough. Like, maybe that demo doesn't allow for that kind of coverage. I don't know, but I want more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Matt's saying right now, this is a big point. I mentioned it earlier, Ben, but like, this is not the best of this demo I've heard, Matt says. And part of the problem is it starts really low, or starts really slow, sorry. Yeah, I definitely have heard better versions of this one, Rob. It's never like amazing, but I mean, it's because it's pretty, like, you see what it is. It's like you just shoot stuff that walks towards you, right? That's all the game is, really.
Sure.
But this is definitely one of it's on the weaker side of the ones I've seen due to coverage. And I think a big thing here is that you're not really indicating much in the sense of like game audio, like implementation sensibilities, things like having different variations, or maybe not playing the hurt sound every single time it hits the guy, or various things like that come into like the technical side of things, right? Where you have, if I have a single sound like that plays over and over again, that doesn't tell me that you've like done your research, or you're thinking about like what other games might be doing, or whatever, as far as like how that situation in a game might be approached from a sound perspective, right? So again, it just shows that you have an interest, but it's not showing much in terms of like maturity. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, I really find that one way to approach these kind of things is like find a game that's similar, like an indie game that does similar things, and try to meet that bar. Like, my favorite analogy is Renaissance painters, right? Like, Renaissance painters were worked under a master until they could do exactly what the master did. Then after they could do that, they developed their own style.
Right.
And until you have developed like enough of your skills where you're like at least competent with what other people are doing, like, then worry about how do I make it mine? Like, you can even iterate on one piece over and over again. I mean, I've done that before, just like to keep my chops going. Like, I'll just grab like a video clip and I'll just work on it, try to match whatever the film or game or whatever it is does, and then I'll like trash it and then go, okay, I've done that. Now, what if I, come up with some new sounds for X, Y, or Z? What if I try a completely different approach? Like, how does all mouth sounds sound on this? Or how does only organic sounds and no synth sound on this? Like, whatever, like, give myself a challenge. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that's what necessarily good for your demo reel, but it can help to sharpen your skills so that once you do come to something you're really proud of, you do put it on your demo reel and it's awesome.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the whole, like, going to game jams, for example, or just like jamming with some friends, or whatever the case may be, and just enforcing some kind of limitation. Like, say, I will only use this specific synth, or this tool, or like you said, like my mouth only, or whatever. That can do so much to kind of just make you, like, keep you honest and keep you growing, right? Because the student thing, it's it's like, sure, you went to school, or you're done school, right? That's what your bio said? I think so. So you went to school, you had these things done, and then you're like, what else is there? Just, of your own volition. You just decide to grow yourself, right? So yeah, recently finished. There you go. So I don't know how recent, but perhaps your CV says so. Let's see here. I'm curious. Oh, does it even work? Does this work? Oh, what? This link? The black area in the link doesn't work. That's so weird. What the heck? Like only the outline of the icon works. Okay, so you were in school. I don't see it. Okay, well, it's not here. All right, well, rip. Okay, well, yeah, it's. I would encourage you to just keep doing more things, Ben. that's my encouragement. I think that submitting to something like Real Talk is like something a whole lot of people aren't doing, and they aren't going out there and saying, "What do you think?" and "How can I get better?" and stuff. So that's a massive step, and I really want to give you a huge pat on the back for that one, because as I've said, like it's clear this is your best effort, and you're putting a lot of work into it, and it's evident. But I think you just got to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It takes a lot of balls to come before the tribunal, so to speak. It's rough because especially when you're starting out, like no one starts out a rock star. No one starts out like just nailing everything from the get-go. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of painful feedback that is honest, and then a lot of self-reflection to go, okay, I'm not good in this area. How do I get better at doing, Foley? How do I get better at doing synthetic sound design? Whatever it is, like it's rough. It's really rough because it takes a lot of self-awareness, and that's something a lot of people, myself included, struggle with. But if you really love this, and this goes for anybody really, like if you really love audio or game audio, whatever it is, like if you're not seeking out opportunities to do it just on your own time, you may want to re-examine what you're trying to do. Because I spend 8 to 12 to 16 hours doing this sometimes. And then I still go home and like work on linear stuff just because I love cutting linearly, and I don't get to do that much at my job. I love recording, so I'm out recording literally every day. I have a pocket recorder and I record at least a sound a day just because, hey man, I don't know when I'm going to need cabinets. It's just like,
yeah, totally.
I don't know when I'm going to need baby cry.
Yeah. Oh, it's Lucy. You're back. There we go.
Yeah, sorry about that. But you got to love this because the hours are long, especially in the AAA space. The hours are long, and the gratitude and recognition are often, we've been very fortunate in Naughty Dog, I should preface, but oftentimes when you're working, like the gratitude and the recognition are very, very slim. And if you don't love this and you don't love doing it and you're not happy just fulfilling yourself by making something cool, like you really need to take a hard look at your choice of employment.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And that goes for everyone in the chat. Not just you, Ben.
Absolutely.
Not just you. Okay, well, I guess we can really end off there. I mean, that covers the distinction note. I think it's safe to say you are not quite standing out yet, Ben, but I encourage you to keep at it, yo. All right. So let's do one of those again. Thanks, Ben. And yeah, I guess thanks so much again, Rob, for coming on the show, man.
No problem.
A lot of awesome feedback. And I should reiterate that Rob actually reached out to us originally. He was like, "Hey, how do I guest host?" So, killer. It means a lot.
Yeah, man. I like I said before, I want to be a resource for people who are trying to figure out how to do this stuff. Because, I mean, I've been doing it for almost 12 years, and I've worked on lots of different things, especially in AAA. So, honestly, anybody listening, if you have questions, like hit me up. I'm a nice guy, I promise. I'll be brutally honest, like I was here, but it's only in service because I want more peers. I want more people to do what we do.
Yeah, I mean the whole reason I say we as Matt Martinson in the chat, Matt Esk, and myself started this whole thing was because we'd go on public forums like the Game Audio subreddit or whatever, and see some redesign there, and the feedback is like, sounds great, and it does not sound great. It's just not that good, and it's like the worst thing we can do. Like Rami, this pretty well-known indie fellow Rami Ismail, he gave a talk, and one thing he said was that the worst thing you can do for an indie developer is tell them their bad game is great, because they just spend so much time on this thing, and they don't have the right lens yet to kind of view why this might not be the best direction for something, or why the design's lacking, or why whatever element's lacking or whatever. So similarly, if we have some kind of like some reel that goes out there, and naturally if you apply a blizzard or something like that and they don't get back to you, you might not know like why you didn't get hired. So hearing that is yes, like Rob says, absolutely in service of just helping you refine your craft. So hopefully you stay at it. And if you decide it's not right for you, then that's fine too. It's whatever is fulfilling to your life, man. Just go do it. So anyways, thanks again, man. Do you have any last things you want to like shout out, things that you're doing at your studio or anything else?
Sure, man. I mean, if you guys haven't played The Lost Legacy yet, the standalone Uncharted game that just came out, it's really good. I'm really proud of the work that the team was able to do here. I think it sounds killer. I think it's one of the best sounding games we've ever done. It's really fun. I really want people to play it because it's not just a DLC; it's a whole standalone game, and it's really great. The other thing is, like if you're interested in some of the linear stuff I do, the Film Riot YouTube channel, if you look up Film Riot on YouTube, I very frequently team with those guys and do sound for their shorts. And so go check it out. Feel free to comment and tear the sound apart, because I am not immune to critique as well. I have stuff to learn, so feel free.
Sweet. Thanks a lot, man. I'll get one of these too. There you go.
All right.
Okay, pal. I'll let you carry on with your evening, and I will do the same here. Thanks a lot.
Cheers. Thanks, Kevin.
Later. Okay, back to our spooky Celeste. Hey, and thank you again to everyone in the chat. I can't say enough or often enough how much it means to me and everyone else here that you're always showing up and helping out and giving your own feedback and your own thoughts and just supporting what we're doing here. It means a lot. Yo, White Noise Trash, with all the feedback in the chat. I saw you on going mad, dude. I know what time it is there right now. It's so late. It is so late in Poland, man. So thank you for showing up too, dude. As always. And I am going to get back to work because this IGF award ain't gonna win itself. Who am I kidding? Cuphead's gonna win. It's fine. Thanks a lot, everyone.